President Xi, clearly he wants control of Taiwan again, and this is a really important thing in his mind and the Chinese Communist Party. Is that where territorial ambitions end, do you think, when we're thinking more about the region and how China wants to shape the region?
Well, China is quite clear under Xi Jinping. They want the second largest economy. They see themselves at some point becoming the greatest economy. They want to be number one and be treated that way within the region. That first island chain of which Taiwan forms a vital part is constraining Chinese military power. They want to acquire it. Already they have reached a quantitative advantage over the US, closing the qualitative gap in military terms. They feel time's on their side, and the example of Ukraine frightens them. A unified West, now working with allies in the East, can block that. And China can't show weakness because they're seeing those pressures applied on Russia. They don't want them to apply on China. And so they're pushing strong now to get us to really to back off.
And you say they feel time is on their side, but this is the interesting point or debate. Is it on their side? It seems as though with every day that passes, resolve around Taiwan increases, both the country itself and countries, Western countries such as the US and Australia, and also the well-spoken of demographic and economic issues in China. It's on the rise now, but it might not be in 10 years. So this might actually expedite this whole sort of crisis.
Right. Well, my previous answer, I conflated the long-term trends, which I basically emphasize, and the short-term trends caused by the war in Ukraine, caused by the COVID outbreak in China and their lockdown. Their economy's slowing. They're reaching a gray-haired population where people like me are going to be really have to be taken care of. I'm in my 70s. That's going to be an added expense to them. And also that China's hope to have that military advantage is going to be really stymied by what AUKUS offers. It's not all about putting nuclear submarines. It's all the artificial intelligence, quantum computing, etc. So that's there. But the time factor is Xi Jinping will get his 5 years.
So in November, another 5 years. So,
but it's hard to look into the future, but it's unlikely to see it another 5, and it's unlikely to see Taiwan's unification. And the simple fact is, I studied there for 2 years in the 50s, but back repeatedly, particularly since the South China Sea came on the boil, the Taiwanese are independent in their minds. They're absolutely, they can go anywhere on their passports in the world that's friendly, and that can't be changed. And also, like they're the top semiconductor exporter, so they have a heft in the world well beyond the island.
Yeah, but it's been unified for only a period of 4 years and never under the Chinese Communist Party. It was 1945 to 1949 from memory. Just finally, a theoretical point of view. Okay, so if the US, Australia, they just decide, do you know what, but it's not worth getting involved in Taiwan. Is there any prospect that at that stage President Xi says, well, great, we got our way, I can claim this as a victory and try a rapprochement and have more cooperation with the rest of the world? Or would that just be seen as a sign of weakness?
Well, China just released a white paper on the unification, and they offer 2 possible approaches. And one is the soft approach. In other words, Taiwan, there's no, that support for your own self-defense is no longer there, so reunify. And the other they call the Peking model, where in the final stages of the Civil War that you mentioned, they surrounded the Kuomintang nationalist forces in Peking, as it was called, and offered them a surrender, and they did. And that served as a model for other cities. And then the nationalists fled to Taiwan. So having overwhelming force, but to offer the hand of surrender was their approach. So the 2, open diplomacy with Taiwan and try to encourage them. The other hand, have overwhelming force. There's no other choice.
Does seem ominous when you paint it like that, but as you mentioned, the independence of the Taiwanese and the fierceness of that has only grown over the years. Professor, we've got to leave it there. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you, Tom.